Welcome everyone. It's time for another AirBike update. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks.
Hey everybody, welcome back. So this is an AirBike update video, and if you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're one of my longtime supporters, then you're probably getting a little bit confused that I'm jumping back and forth from radio control to ultralights. But right now I'm focusing on getting my ultralight done by the spring, and I'm really getting close to getting this thing done. So like I said, my obsession is aviation, and it's been radio control for a very long time. And a couple of years ago, one of my buddies said, why don't you build a real airplane? And I said, kit foxes are too expensive and an RV's out of the question. And he said, build an ultralight. And I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that. Well, it's sunk in, and I decided to build an ultralight. But my obsession has been designing my own airframes, okay? And I've been doing that with model aircraft that are over 150 inches for a long time now. Been in model aviation since the late 70s. But in this update video, I'm going to talk about some things that you have to build so you can build your airplane. And then I'm going to answer, well, not really answer, but address some emails I've gotten. So let's dive into this, folks, okay? So here you can see me standing with my wing, and my wing is basically in the vertical position. So I had to build two stands that go on the end. These stands are going to be used for a couple of things. One, when I put the leading edge on, the wing, if you've watched my other videos, I've already formed all of my plywood around a jig. The leading edge plywood for the wing and the ailerons. But when you go through all the steps to get the epoxy and the Gorilla Glue and all the nails and everything in place, it's hard to get to the bottom. If the wing is sitting on a table, it's hard to get to the bottom leading edge. So by me making a jig to hold the wing vertical, I can walk to both sides of the leading edge and glue and nail it in place. So that's the reason I built this jig right here. And it took me 3 or 4 days to build this because everything I build is really precise and really straight. I did notice something really interesting about my wing. When I built my wing on my table, I was supporting it from one rib in. So believe it or not, that wing, as I epoxied it all together and got it all aligned, even though my spars are perfectly straight, the way I got my ribs and everything aligned, gravity was pulling the wing down just a little bit, about a 1/16 of an inch, which I know it's not even hardly measurable. But when I put this wing vertical and put my laser down it, I see in the center of the leading edge that the wing is not perfectly straight. Now, I'll lock all that in when I put on the leading edge. Okay, that will help lock all of that in. And it's a real simple trick of basically using a piece of dowel rod and some kite string to pull that straight when I go to put the leading edge in, okay? I want to do a shout out real quick to my sponsor, RTL Fasteners. If you need bolts, nuts, blind nuts, servo screws, just about any fastener that's out there, even some really cool specialty stuff, go to rtlfasteners.com, use the code DAG25, DAG's my nickname, and you buy more than $25 and you'll get 25% off your order. It's a really great deal. So here's a closer look at the jig. And this isn't a great picture, but basically the way I designed the bottom part of the legs, I'm going to lay some barbells on this to hold it perfectly straight when I go to start aligning all of this. So right now it's just completed, but the wing is not jig straight yet. Okay, when you look at the other side here, you can see I put an adjustment here so that I can put a level on the bottom of each of my ribs as I get this whole thing squared up and straight when I go to put that leading edge on. Keep in mind, when you put the leading edge on, you create what's called a D-tube. And then once, if you've got any curve in that wing, it's locked in once you put the leading edge in. Okay? And here's a little bit, here, let me make this a little bit bigger screen here for you. So basically, this right here gives me adjustment if I need to, move the wing left or right or anything. There are 2 brackets I've made that will actually have pivot points. So when I go to cover and paint this wing, I can use this as a way to rotate the wing around and get to it. If you notice, I've got a little bitty bracket right here. And the wing wants to sag a little bit because the drag braces only go out 3/4 of the wing. The end of this wing here wants to sag a little bit. So I've got to make sure I hold that up when I put the leading edge on and then lock in the shape of that wing. And here's a different picture of it. But it's really crazy. See, you can see kind of the drag braces right here, these diagonals. This wing does not sag at all until you get outboard of this. And that's where I needed to pick that up a little bit. Once I put that leading edge on, I'll be fine. It will be locked in. So that's kind of kick-ass. So what I want to do now is I want to address, and look, folks, one of the hardest things of sharing this build online is all the people that tell me I should be doing it a different way. And I want to be very, very polite to them, saying I'm pretty much sticking to the plans. And I have a friend who's really, really close to me. He's a retired, I don't want to say too much about him because he's a very private person, but he's a retired aeronautical engineer that owns a Mooney, owns an A-36. He owns like 5 or 6 airplanes, but he also has 3 or 4 ultralights. And one ultralight he has is an AirBike. And he bought the AirBike off a guy where the wings were destroyed, okay? And I think the guy, it dry rotted out in a open hangar. It didn't have like a door on it. And the wings were basically garbage. So he bought the AirBike, he put a Rotax engine on it, got it all cleaned up, but he decided to build some wings for it. And the wings had some under camber on it. And I know from my designing a model aircraft, anytime you put under camber on a wing, you know, the bottom of the wing's curved, you have 2 challenges. One is, if you're going to put fabric on there, how are you going to hold the fabric up on that inside radius? Okay, on my aircraft, I used the thread like they use on full-scale airplanes in the glue, and that held it up in there. On a ultralight, it's going to be the same challenge. How are you going to get that fabric to stay up against that? Okay, now, there are ways to bring the wax thread that you can get at aircraft spruce from the top of the rib, around the bottom of the rib, and hold that up in there. And if you glue it right, it stays up there. But it's kind of difficult to do. And well, I shouldn't say that. It's time consuming. But I know from my aeronautical design experience, under camber wings are extremely pitch sensitive to airspeed changes. So this friend of mine built a wing, and I'm not going to get into the NACA number and all that stuff, but it had an under camber wing very much like some of the aluminum ultralights have, like the Quicksilvers. I think it was the Quicksilver. I don't want to share things that on my channel, I don't like to speculate or give you false information. But he built this wing, and if he cruised around at like 44 miles an hour in this ultralight, it had great slow flight characteristics. He loved it. But as he changed airspeeds on it, the pitch changed so much, and because we don't have electric trims or trims on most ultralights, he was having a lot of stick force when he would go faster, or if he was descending. Now, he said also, if you didn't have some washout in the wing, they were very unforgiving when they stalled. You just didn't know when it was going to break. So I get all these people, literally like 10 people now saying, why did I build the AirBike wing? Why did I stick with the wing? Well, here's the thing, folks, and I'm trying to say this as polite as I can. When Eisen designed this, he was praised for this airfoil shape he used. He was praised for having such a strong wing that was so light. Okay, so while I like to invent and create and build things, and one day I'm going to build my own design in an ultralight, on this AirBike, I wanted to stay as close as I could. Now, I know I added some carbon fiber toe, and I'll show you in a minute how I did that, because I need to clear up some other questions I'm getting about how I use that carbon fiber toe. But when you when you talk to anybody, and I've flown an AirBike, when you talk to anybody who's flown an AirBike or owned an AirBike, they love the wing. And I know I have one follower that says that, you know, he's put different wings on different ultralights and had great success, and I think that's awesome. But I don't know if it was put on an on an AirBike. And AirBikes can be kind of fast. I mean, some people actually get an IN number and get it registered as experimental because they don't want to be at the 254 pounds or under. And you can get them up to 60, 70 miles an hour. Now, if you're going to stay part 103, you're not supposed to go over 55 knots, I think it is, which is what, 62 miles an hour or 61 mile an hour, something like that. But AirBikes are a really, really good, clean design when you talk to all the people that have been flying them. Okay, now I'm not saying down the road I wouldn't put a different airfoil on the AirBike. I mean, maybe 5 years from now, if I've got unlimited funds and I'm bored and I want to build another set of wings for it that I can pop on and see what the differences are, you know, I might do that. But I don't know if I'd ever put an under camber on it because of the pitch sensitivity problems through the airspeed regimen. And that's just from my own personal experience, folks. I'm not saying you shouldn't try it or it won't work, but I'm explaining why I'm not doing it. Because I think I've gotten like 10 emails saying, why did I stick with this airfoil? And it's because it's worked so good. I don't know why I would change it. You know, I would love to put electric flaperons on it. I know there's a way that you can put a device on it so that, you know, when you're moving your stick left and right, you have your ailerons, but it will pull both of them in a little bit and give you flaperons. I don't care about that because the AirBike I flew landed at like 25 mile an hour. I mean, I felt like I could have rode a bicycle as fast as I was landing that AirBike. And mine's going to be light. I mean, right now, mine is right on target. And I shouldn't share this because if I'm wrong, then, you know. But I think mine's going to weigh right at about 248. Maybe 246. But mine's definitely going to be under the 254. Unless I just put on a crap load of paint. And that's another stressor I've got right now is trying to figure out what colors I'm going to paint it. You know I wanted my blue fuselage, but I want a wing that's a little bit higher visibility. So if I've got that low-time rich doctor that's flying his Seneca or his 340 doesn't just run over me somewhere, I want to be visible enough that people aren't going to, I'm not going to paint my plane sky blue. But one of the things I do want to share is when we talk about this wing design and we talk about the simplicity of this wing design, and if you look at the airfoil shape, it's really kind of close to a Clark Y too. So, you know, that's one reason I didn't change it, folks. Now, I want to talk about the spars for a minute and how I did the carbon fiber toe because I have gotten a lot of questions about this and I want to clarify it. You have a top piece of wood that makes the top of the spar. You have a bottom piece of wood that makes the bottom of the spar. Then you have a shear web. So wood, shear web. The top piece of wood has carbon fiber toe on the top, on the face, and underneath the bottom. I kick myself in the head that I didn't laminate one in between the shear web and the piece of wood. I mean, there's two little bitty pieces I put in there because I had a whole bunch of scrap 1/8" carbon fiber toe. But then on the leading edge of the shear web, there's carbon fiber toe. So I kind of created a box of carbon fiber toe. Okay, and when you look at this picture here, you can see, let me go to the other picture. You can see how I have on the face of the shear web, and I'm not completely done here, but right here you can see it on the top here, it's on the face here, it's on the bottom, and it's on the top of this. And actually, I'm wrong. I don't think it's on the face of the back side of this. I think I only have 3 sides that was wrapped in, and then 2 little 1/8" pieces that was laminated between the shear web and the piece of wood there. So that carbon fiber is putting, and carbon fiber, as you know, basically works only when it's in tension. So if I have a hard landing, this carbon fiber on the toe is going to keep the wing from flexing down. But this carbon fiber toe on the bottom is what's going to be really nice if for some reason I ended up being in a high G situation, like I stalled it, got into a spin, and you know, I think it's designed for +3 Gs or 3.5 Gs, but I bet these are like 5 or 6 G wings, especially with what I reinforced where the aluminum attachments are with carbon fiber. But I am never going to fly aerobatics with this, even if I get bored. So that's kind of this video, everybody. I wanted to make a short, sweet video update on the jigs I had to build. I wanted to answer some questions of why I didn't choose a different airfoil or a different wing design. And I'm not disagreeing that if you wanted to put an undercamber wing on your ultralight, it wouldn't work, because there's a lot of them out there that are designed that way. But some of those ultralights are kind of designed to take off and fly at a certain speed and then come down and land. I'm trying to remember which one I flew. I don't think it was a Quicksilver. I flew one that had, you know, the engine's behind the wing. There's aluminum going back to the horizontal stab. Propellers in the middle. It's a pusher. And that had, I mean, basically the aluminum tubing that made up the airfoil had the fabric like a sock slid over it. And that's what held it up to it. So it was a massively undercambered wing. But that plane just flew around at like 45 miles an hour and just was a sightseeing plane. It wasn't, you would never get anywhere fast in it. It was a great, and it landed at like 15 mile an hour probably. But that's not an air bike. So, and I hope I'm not creating controversy, people, because I'm not disagreeing with anybody who wants to take their own designs the directions they want. Okay? So the last thing I want to do is say, you're doing that wrong, because I haven't walked in your shoes. I don't have the experience you have. And what you might be doing is perfect. But for me, I want to build this air bike wing per the plans and just have fun flying it, everybody. I mean, I guess I'm trying to think of the most politically correct way to say this. Sometimes people want to change things just to change it. Sometimes people want to change the design to say, I changed the design. I collect data all over the planet from things like that, just as a little hobby of mine. And it's amazing how many times you've actually gone backwards a little bit instead of forward. Okay, jumbo jets. Most people don't realize that wing is not designed to take off and land. It's designed to cruise at 40,000 feet and use as the least amount of fuel possible. That's the reason when a jumbo jet lands, they've got big old flaps and leading edge devices. They do everything to make that airplane be able to slow down. But the whole intent of that wing is to save money when they're flying through the air. Okay? And if I were building a Glass Air or something that I wanted every bit of performance out of, and somebody said, hey, you could put Vortex generators on the wing, or you could do this and make it fly better, it might be worth it. But this is a Part 103 ultralight that I'm just going to cruise around the skies of Indiana, okay? And I don't know if any of these changes would be enough for me really to say that the trade-off is worth it. That's the best political way I can say it, folks, because I have had so many people change things, and they don't realize they've set themselves back a little bit. I see it in radio control aircraft all the time. You know, people will always say, oh, if you add carbon fiber to that wing, it makes it lighter. It doesn't. It makes it stronger. So what you got to do is you got to use less of the carbon fiber. So think about this, and then I'll end this video. Let's say you have a balsa wood wing that weighs 5 pounds. And let's say that the balsa wood, let's say you have a wing that weighs 5 pounds. And it has balsa wood ribs, basswood spars, plywood shear web, okay, just for sake of argument. And it weighs 5 pounds. You just put carbon fiber in that, you're going to add weight, but you also are going to make it so strong that you don't need it. You're never going to over-G the wing in the initial way it was designed. But if you took out the basswood and took out the plywood and used the carbon fiber correctly, and you could get the wing down a half a pound, but still be 50% stronger than it was, then you're kicking ass. And that's what I've learned to do on some of my big, my MSL2 188-inch wing only weighs 59 pounds. And if it was a gas plane, with internal combustion, not electric, and it had plywood and all that junk in it, it would be a 70-pound airplane. But because it's electric and there's no vibration, I could get almost all the plywood out of it, use carbon fiber in the right places. I always use carbon fiber tow. Well, I shouldn't say always. Sometimes I use the twill cloth or whatever it is. But, folks, I'm just trying to share my own experiences with you that it might help you, okay? That's the only reason I have my YouTube, is to share my own personal experiences, both successes and failures. And there's a lot of people that say, oh, if you add carbon fiber, it makes it lighter, and that's not true. You got to take something out of the design, weight-wise, if you're going to put carbon fiber in there. And you got to know how to use the carbon fiber to actually give you the strength you want while removing other bulky materials that you don't need, okay? As you know, I always end my videos, if you're one of my longtime followers, talking about getting kids involved in aviation, okay? And look, I know I'm a crackpot sometimes, and I've got a very bizarre, sometimes eccentric personality, or maybe stupid, but I'm not all together all the time, because I see things through different glasses than most people. But these people who say we shouldn't be trying to get kids into model aviation confuse me. I'm working on a video right now, which I think is going to be one of my most epic videos, and it's about why joining the Academy of Model Aeronautics at $85 is probably one of the greatest things you could put $85 toward. I've already had people say, $85, that's way too expensive. Well, if you smoke cigarettes, you're spending that probably a week on cigarettes. There's so many things. And when this video is done, hopefully I'll put it into perspective that $85 a year to become a member of the Academy of Model Aeronautics is an investment. It really is. And it's an investment in securing our hobby. Because if you look what the AMA just accomplished by getting our community-based organization status, all of the money we put in the AMA is paying off right now. And if you want to look at the past all the time and say, oh, look what they did 20 years ago, I don't know why anybody wants to live in the past. You might get experiences from the past as a builder, but to look at failures in the past of the way an organization might have been run is a waste of time. Let's look to the future and how we can make it better. And making it better is getting more kids into it. I'm going to argue with anybody that says parents don't have time to get kids in model aviation. Those parents have time to get the kids into Boy Scout, Girl Scout, soccer, hockey, football, baseball. If parents have time to get the kids in, and those aren't cheap sports, they could get them into model aviation. But the kid has to see that spark. Okay, don't say to your kid, hey, we're selling the football and helmet. You're going to get a model airplane tomorrow and like it or not. Don't do that. You've got to find one of your kids that see that spark of aviation. Okay, take them to a flying club, take them to an RC air show, take them and see if that spark ignites. If it ignites, then pour on the nitro, the nitrous, and have a blast, and let your kid grow up to be an engineer or an astronaut or a fighter pilot or something really, really cool. So that's it, everybody. I hope you appreciate this video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't. I'm really trying to build my YouTube to help pay for building my ultralight. I did get a couple of kind of hate mail emails that I'm not going to be building anything next year, and that is true. Next year I'm just going to fly. I'm going to get the AirBike done. I'm going to take an entire year off building, okay? And then I'm going to get back into, I'm going to get the MSL1, my first vintage airplane on floats. That will probably be the first thing I do, and that's maybe a month project at the most. But everybody wants to know what big next airframe I'm going to build. And I'll tell you, it's down to 2 airplanes right now. It's either a 180-inch now. I've increased the design, 180-inch Mosquito, or it's a 178-inch T-28. Those are the 2 planes. One of those 2 planes will be the next project, but it won't be for at least a year away from now. So rock on, everybody. Please be safe and be nice to each other. And please get a kid involved in model aviation. See y'all next time. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching until the end. I hope you had time to like and subscribe.